Hey everybody, it's Matt Johnson here. We're back with another episode of the Team Building Podcast. We have an awesome guest here with us today, and we're going to be talking about how to coach and motivate lifestyle-oriented agents. So we're going to go really deep on some of the techniques, tactics, and strategies of how to motivate someone that is not looking to take over the world. They want to do the right number of deals for them so that they have a life outside of real estate, whatever that might mean for them. Sometimes it might mean kids that need to be brought to and from school. In one case, we'll get to somebody that really just wants to spend more time at the pool. So we're going to talk about how to keep them motivated and on track and all that good stuff. So first, let me welcome in Andy, the team success manager, both for Omaha and our expansion teams, Andy Cuny. What is up today, Andy?
Hey, Matt, it's good to be here.
Yes, always fun.
It's always fun to be on with you, and I'm really excited to talk to Marguerite today. We got a chance to chat just for a minute here prior to hopping on, and she sounds like she's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited.
Well, we got to get her amped up. She's a little low energy today. I mean, it's So for those that don't know, Marguerite Crespillo. So Marguerite, give us like a little 60-second bio on who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Hey, so I'm Marguerite Crespillo. Yes, there are 19 letters in my name in case you're counting. It's a long name. And I'm here in the greater Sacramento area, actually Roseville, California. Been in real estate about 23 years, long time. So I've been doing it a while. I have run a personal production team as well as I do coaching, training, and mentoring through the Masterclass Real Estate Academy.
Awesome. Yeah, and before we went and recorded this podcast, kind of the reason for this and why we're talking about this topic is, so Marguerite, you were a guest on my regular podcast, Real Estate Uncensored, and one of the things that you mentioned really got a lot of attention. I actually pulled that clip out of the show and just threw it up on Facebook to see what would happen and got an overwhelming response, and a lot of people reached out to you. So why don't you recap that for a second? Let's talk about Amanda Todd and why that resonated with people so much.
Well, I think that the industry, first of all, the demographics of the real estate industry are almost 65% women. And so, we make up a huge part of the industry. And with that, a lot of women come into this industry for a variety of reasons. Number one, because there's a ton of flexibility, right? We can work this job, this career, and raise kids and do all the things that we need to do. And the truth is that everyone can have their own version of success. So while you might have some of the mega guys and gals that are doing 400 or 500 units or whatever the crazy numbers are that they're doing, for one mom to sell 6 to 10 homes a year can be life-changing for her family. When the average commission is, $5,000 across the country, that's $50,000 potentially to be able to work not even necessarily full-time and have the flexibility to drop your kids off at school, to pick them up after school. So I think that that's a huge component. I know for me, I raised my kids in this business. When I first got into real estate, I had a 5-year-old, a 12-month-old, and one on the way. And so by the time I was my third year in real estate, I had 3 kids under the age of 5 years old. So I could work before they got up. I could work after they went to sleep. I could, figure out some ways to be flexible. So I think that's the most attractive part of this business. And the other thing is there's no glass ceiling. I can be as successful as I want to be or not and work around my life. The education restrictions are minimal, thankfully. Yeah. I mean, I barely graduated from high school, so my report card said talks too much, and that works out for me in real estate. So
that's so appropriate. Oh, that's
it totally
awesome.
Is. So that's the cool thing about this business, and I still love it 23 years later. Like, I don't know what the heck else I would do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we don't actually believe that you have any grown kids, so I just want to get that out of the way. But I think one of the struggles that, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do an episode about this is, so the guys at the top, the guys that start these mega teams, super, super driven. I mean, they are, a lot of times there's a pretty good profile, and somebody was talking about this from the mortgage perspective that I ran into here a few weeks about. He was talking about how a lot of the top mortgage guys in the country, they're adrenaline junkies. They're sharks. They have to keep moving, and they are, they're work hard, play hard. They're in their spare time when they're not, absolutely going after it in business, they're going after it in some other area. They're jumping out of a plane, or they're diving and doing like shark cage stuff off the coast of South Africa and different things like that. Like, there's a personality profile that tends to be super successful in real estate and mortgage and things like that. I feel like those guys have a hard time relating to somebody that just wants to do 2 to 4 deals a month, and they don't understand really how to motivate them, because the motivators, the motivating factors for those two different types of people are worlds apart. So Andy, I want to go to you first. So you're kind of bridging that gap between Jeff, who is that guy,
Right.
built a team that's on the way to doing 750 deals a year, but that's due to the fact that there's all these people on the team that are doing 2 to 4 deals a month, and you're the one that's responsible for motivating them to go from maybe 6 deals a year to 3 to 4 a month. And I'm curious kind of what your perspective is on how do you keep those people on a daily basis motivated?
So, well, keeping them motivated, it's a lot of self-motivation, right? It's my job to find out what is motivating them and then to focus on that. That's why when we talk about our team structure, is me meeting once a week with these people one-on-one, finding out it's not what is motivating them big picture, it's what's motivating you that week, what's motivating you this day. And so when I can find that out, and it's going to be different, right? Where you're going to have those guys who are, I want to make 50,000, then I want to make 100,000, then I want to make 150, then I want to have my own team, right? They're not all like that. We got 25 agents on the team. They're all different. I can meet with that person. Then next go around, I'll have a meeting with somebody who says, yeah, I'm making $60,000 this year. I want to do that again, but I want to do it in less time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's very specific to each person, and that's why you can't do cookie cutter, one size fits all. You know what I mean? You can have those trainings for the entire team, and that's great. That's educational. What really is important, and I feel like where my value is added to the team, is where I have that one-on-one and help each person kind of create their own path, right? And that is, and once you can show them that they can achieve what it is they need to achieve financially, but do it within the time restraints that each one of them has, it opens it up for you. You can just see it. They get that clarity, and then they get excited, and then that's all the motivation they need. You know what I mean? But you got to stay with them every step of the way. You can't just, that sounds great, why don't you go do that? You know what I mean? You got to keep doing it every single week. Yeah. And I just wanted to point out, I know that we kind of started out, Marguerite was talking about mothers having kids. You know what I mean? It's the flexibility of the industry is such a big draw. And we know that. We get everybody coming in here because they love the flexibility. Well, one thing that I've noticed about the mothers that we have on the teams, and just from doing it myself, because before I was a full-time real estate agent, I was a stay-at-home dad, is you have to be so good at time blocking. There is not a better time blocker than a mom who has kids. And you know what I mean? And they are rigid with it too. There's a routine, and you got it down. Those are the people that don't miss making their calls on a Wednesday from 1 to 2 because they know they aren't going to have any other time to do it. You know what I mean? Those are the people that understand and they get it. So I think that's what really helped me plug into the system right away, is I didn't have a lot of time, and I was on a super tight schedule, right? Had to have everything. I plugged in, and it worked out perfect. And so now it's my job to find out how I can help other agents plug in as well based on what their situation is.
Well, I know for me that a couple things. Like a good example that I think of is my good friend Valisa. Valisa is here in our market, and her entire driving force was she wanted to be able to pay her daughter's way through medical school. She didn't want her daughter to have to get a bunch of loans and all this kind of stuff and come out of medical school with, $250,000 in debt. So her driving force every day was, how can I make enough money to get my daughter through college? And I think that for many of us, that is really the driving force. For us, my husband had a great job, but it was enough money to pay the basics and pay the bills. And so I wanted to be able to afford all the extras, and I like extras. So for me, it was, how can I go on vacation more? How can I take my kids' place and do things with them? I mean, I grew up with a single mom who, back in those days, you left for work at 8 o'clock. We didn't have cell phones then, and I didn't hear from my mom till 6 o'clock at night when she came home and cooked dinner and, and did laundry and gave us baths and did homework and all. Like, she had no life. And now I can, selling real estate, I can still attend to my boys' football games and hang out and work on my iPhone, because I'm not really a sports athlete, as we talked about before. But, so I can get work done and still be there with my kids. And I don't know another career that you can really do that in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I 100% agree. It's a lot of it has to do with balance, and Gary Keller talks about it a lot in The One Thing. right? Balance doesn't always mean 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10. So if I have, so my balance one week might be I'm at the office by 7:30, and the kids, I'm gone before the kids are up, and they're in bed by the time I get home because I have appointments, right? But guess what? What other job do I get to take off a Tuesday afternoon and take the kids to go feed the ducks, right? Or take them up for ice cream?
I think that's so important, and I want to interject this a little bit because my kids grew up completely in real estate. Literally, my son John was born in 1996. He's now down in San Diego. He's 6'1", 20 years old, doing his thing. And so Jake and John, I've sat down and asked them, I'm like, okay, what was it like growing up with a mom in real estate? And they said, Mom, we had the best life. You were honestly you were around all the time, more than we wanted in high school. And we got to do a lot of cool stuff, and the difference is that they don't know any different too, right? So you do have to create some of that balance. But I think a huge thing for moms and dads is we feel guilty all the time, right? We're constantly feeling guilty that we didn't spend enough time with our kids, or we didn't do enough with our kids. And I know for a fact that I spent way more time with my children than my mother ever was able to because of the difference in my work and my lifestyle. So we got to stop beating ourselves up a little bit, right? I mean, obviously you got to create some balance in there, but I think that the word balance is kind of BS too, right? Because nobody has this perfectly balanced life. We're all looking at Facebook where every agent sells 100 homes a year and every lender never closes a deal late. It's not reality. And so, that's the hard part is we're comparing ourselves to these images and these visions. And I know last time we did talk, you mentioned Amanda Todd. I've spent a lot of time with Amanda, and Amanda is so honest and real, and she's like, yeah, I have meltdowns and I screw up and I forget to pick up my kids, and I mean, we all do that. There's that movie out right now called Bad Moms. Oh my God, it's the best movie ever. You have to go see that movie.
My wife just went to that with a group of her friends the other night.
It's so good, It's it's just that's reality, We're all not this image of what we think we are supposed to be. Our kids grow up, and my kids have made it just fine. They're not in jail, they haven't, done any really bad stuff other than they probably party a little bit too much, but they're teenagers, so. And they probably learned that from their parents, so I don't have a whole lot to say in that arena. But the truth is they're good kids. So that's the amazing thing about this industry. You can make as much money as you want in as little time as you're able to do it and still raise kids that are a part of society and have a life.
Well, let me ask you this, Marguerite, and I want Andy to kind of share how they've structured things on the team to accommodate, mothers and whether they're single or married or whatever the case is, and we'll get into that in a second. But was there anything that you did special on your team, knowing your experience? Obviously, you came up in the business doing that exact thing, having kids and picking them up and dropping them off and all that stuff. So when you started your team or when you ran your team, is there anything you do to kind of help that and structure things to accommodate those types of agents on your team?
Well, I think that this applies to most agents anywhere, honestly, whether they're men or women. The most successful people on the planet ask for help, and they get help, and they get good help around them. And I think a big mistake that many make is that they won't hire assistants. They don't get help. And so as a team, our focus has been to put people in place that can support them and help them and make sure that things are taken off their plate and handled for them so that they are able to do more business. Because you cannot do it all. And so here's the difference, and this may come across sexist, but you guys will have to get over it.
I'm already offended.
Right? I'm boiling right now.
Except that Andy is a little bit of a freak of nature, but the reality is that in most situations when women are married, right, we have kids and we raise kids, and the men, when they are in the relationship, they go off to work and they do their thing and they have a wife. Whether that wife is working full-time or not, the wife still takes care of many details of the household. Men don't randomly think to make dentist appointments for kids. They don't, they go to the grocery store and buy one thing. They don't buy the toilet paper extra. That's just men and women, right? That's just the difference between us. And so for women, when we're working full-time raising kids and trying to be a wife and trying to take care of ourselves in there somewhere. And that dynamic gets so overwhelming. And then we're guilt-tripped when we do ask for help, right? By other women, not so much the men. Men could care less. You guys are super simple. But the women, for the most part, they feel guilty because they see, oh, well, this gal is doing it all. And there must be something wrong with me that I can't do it all. And so the most valuable part of all of that rambling I just did is you've got to get help. Like and you've got to get an assistant. And maybe it's not necessarily an assistant in real estate. Maybe it's an assistant who takes care of your laundry and cleans your house and goes grocery shopping. Yeah. I mean, you could literally pay somebody $100 a week, $50 a week maybe, to go work a few hours to help you out. And that was life-changing for me. It's the number one thing I did when I got into real estate. Within 6 months, I hired an assistant. And I have a nanny at my house because I am a better mom because I work. And the truth is that, you know, my kids are grown. Everyone's like, well, why do you still have a nanny? I go, because she was always my nanny. She was never there for the kids, right? Like, she was there to help. People get help and take advantage of the resources that are offered to you on teams such as Andy's and groups and mine. Use that help. Don't be guilt-tripped into not using it. The more help you get, the more successful you can be. There's a direct correlation. Would you not agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like it. Yeah, I think that's a struggle that a lot of agents have. You know, men and women, is the willingness to not just ask for help, although that's a big part of, like, I think women struggle a little bit more with that maybe than even men do, as far as the asking for help and the guilt tripping and stuff like that. But there is a component of that where agents, I think, intuitively understand that if they get help with the details, I mean, somebody made the comment, I think it was Brinley Tucker, on one of the other episodes, said that it's a lot easier to pick up the phone and coordinate an appraisal than it is to pick up the phone and call a lead, which is the best way I've ever heard that phrased.
That is so true.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of that, you know, but I love the idea of, like you said, Marguerite, like when you were in the business and you were coming up, like there was a very direct correlation between the time that you put in that generated leads and generated business to real tangible rewards. It wasn't just the money went into the bank account and then the money went to all just the house and the bills and like just maintaining. Like you had very tangible, like something to work for, in the sense that you knew that the deals that you were bringing in directly correlated to vacations and time with the kids and time with the family and really cool experiences and things like that. And I think that's important, that if there's money that's going to the bills, great, but figure out a way to reward yourself. And as some of the supervising and motivating those agents, helping them to find those little things, those experiences that they can give themselves through the week to reward them on a day-to-day, a week-to-week basis is super, super critical. I mean, we all have that. We're all like working and trying to build businesses and all this stuff. We have to find those rewards, those rewarding experiences to kind of help us keep motivated, because some of us are building for goals that might not pay off for 5-10 years. You know, we have to find those things that motivate us right now.
For sure.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's super important. But Andy, getting back to you, so share a little bit about how you guys structure like the team meetings and all this stuff to accommodate people with kids.
Sure, yes. I want to run through that, and then I also want to touch on something Marguerite said, because I absolutely agree, and I have some real-life experiences, obviously, to share to prove her point. So I'm sure she'll be anxiously awaiting that. So with our team, we know why people get into real estate. Part of the value is it's flexible, right? So we've made sure not to skip all of our team meetings that we have every Monday. We don't start them until 9:30. So it's time to get the kids to school. That's the one thing that I loved about it. It fit into my schedule when I first started. I could drop the kids off at school and get over there, time for the team meeting. We try not to schedule a team commitment, every day. We break it up so that if you come into the office, we have things packaged together so that there's high value in a short amount of time. So we'll have our team meetings and then all of our one-on-one meetings Monday. And they'll all be mid-morning to mid-afternoon. Right? So people can get out of there, get to their appointments, pick up their kids, do whatever it is they need to do. And then we'll have nothing on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, we'll come back with one-on-ones, dialogue training, call blitzes. Right? We package it all in. We start at 10. We're done by 2. And then again on Friday, we'll have our team training starting at 10, and then we'll have mastermind groups and breakouts after that over by 12/31. So we try to package things not every day of the week, and then when we do package it, we start mid-morning and we're done by mid-afternoon. And not only does that help the agents who have, kids and family, other responsibilities, it also helps the agents that don't. They have time to set aside for showings and appointments, right? And their own prospecting and their own listing presentation, things like that. So we've tried to schedule it that way so that if you really needed to be here for every training, every meeting that the team offered, you're giving up maybe 9 hours a week. You know what I mean? 9 hours a week, and then you got the rest of the time to yourself, yet you're getting all the value that the team provides.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So life experiences, Andy.
Yes, life experiences, going deep. What is it? Deep
sharing
thoughts.
is caring.
Deep Thoughts by Andy Cuny. Okay, so this is what we came up with. I know, Marguerite, you were talking about kind of like, people don't ask for help because there's like a guilt, right, or a shaming. And it was, and your example was getting a nanny to help out with the kids, right? Saying you should be able to handle that yourself. Why can't you handle that? You know what I mean? There's this pressure put on. Well, there is some of that pressure put on as well with the guys. With, why aren't you cutting your own lawn? Why aren't you changing your own oil? Right? And the thing is, and Jeff actually drilled this into me. I used to do that stuff because I thought, well, that's my job. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to be doing that.
That's a total, as a total Midwest thing too. Why would you pay someone to cut your grass?
Exactly.
I'm like, why would I spend 2 hours out in the ungodly heat in the Midwest doing something that I'm bad at?
Well, and it was something that you're bad at. I love it. So this is the deal, though. I enjoyed doing those things, right? But I also found, and I still mow occasionally on my own, just because I get 2 hours to put the headphones in and nobody can talk to me, right? And I don't mind that. I like that. It's my Andy time. But I also realized that to make that time profitable, right? I can pay somebody $20 to do that, and my time per hour is worth much more than 20 hours or $20 an hour. And I can make a certain amount that I'll be able to buy a bigger chunk of time that I can spend with my kids, spend with my wife. I can have date night. There's no guilt there. You know what I mean? It's things like that. So I totally understand when Marguerite was talking about somebody hiring a nanny or doing this or that. Absolutely. And I thought it was a great example. But I wanted to make sure that we also threw it in there that it's not just the women. It can be for any agent. You know what I mean? Across the board.
So I stay married because we hired a landscaper and a pool service.
See? There you go.
We stay married, right? So it works out because then my yard looks pretty and my pool is not green, and my husband gets to go be happy. Yeah.
I love it.
I wanted to just throw some numbers out there for a moment to help people with this, because let's say your goal was to make $100,000 a year. Okay, and if you start to break that down by how much that is a month, it's about $8,300 a month. You break it down to per week, you break it down to per day, you break it down to an hour, it comes out to $48 an hour. That means in order for you to make $100,000 a year, you have to be doing $48 an hour work. So every minute that you're not doing $48 an hour work, you have just reduced your ability to make $100,000 a year. And here's the amazing thing. There are people out there that love to do laundry. And there are people who
give me their number?
love to do yard work, right? And they'll do it for $10, $12, $15 an hour. I mean, let's say worst case scenario, $20 an hour, but a good example is I used to do a Christmas party every year, a big Christmas party for client events, and I used to do every bit of it. I'd decorate my whole house. I cooked all the food. I did all the, the invitations. I did every single bit of it. And I would be stressed out at the party. I wasn't a whole lot of fun to be around. I wasn't having any, I didn't get to talk to people because I'm too busy cleaning up crap. And it was not fun. And then somebody said, there are companies out there that like $25 an hour, they'll come out and help you with that. I was like, what? Wait a minute. I did the math. I'm like, I could get 2 people for 4 hours, and I would pay $200 to be at my party, and it was the best money I ever spent. They showed up early. They got stuff laid out. They cleaned everything up. They left when the party was over, and my house was back to normal when the party was done. And meanwhile, from that party alone, I was able to get 4 referrals that generated over $30,000 in commissions because I was present.
Yeah,
right?
That's awesome.
See, and the way that comes back is we talked about a lot of people are too afraid to ask. I think it's a combination. They're too afraid to ask for help, and they also don't see the benefit There are a lot of people that don't break it down just like you did, Marguerite, right? Where it's per hour. And so they don't see the benefit of their time. And so a lot of times they're the ones filling out paperwork and chasing down signatures, you know what I mean, to bring it back to real estate day to day.
Exactly.
And they don't see the value. They just see the cost of what that, what expense that's going to be to them. And if they could just see the value and break it down to their own personal expenses of what it is to have an assistant on your team, it's amazing. It changes their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very much. I mean, somebody said, I don't know if it was the difference between unsuccessful necessarily versus successful, but just kind of on your way versus once you've arrived. You start off having, a ton of time and no money, and then really successful people have zero time and a lot of money. And then there's every shade. There's a part where that tips for everybody. I think that's when you're working with lifestyle-oriented agents and they start doing like that 2 to 3 deal a month. That's probably 2 deal a month ratio. It starts to flip, but mentally they have not flipped, right?
So true.
So it's helping them understand from a coaching perspective, like, no, you are getting to the point now where you are hitting that tipping point where your time is more valuable than just the money that you spend. So now it's time to invest to get more time back so that you can put that time into more valuable opportunities, and then you'll make more money, and then that will free up more time. And just, I think with a lot of people coming into real estate from the so-called real world, where they come into it with an employee mindset. They're looking to be told what to do. They're assuming they're going to have like a schedule laid out for them, or they don't want a schedule laid out for them. But they're coming into it with kind of an employee mindset of tell me what to do. And everything that costs money is just an absolute cost. It's either I spend time on it and that's free, or this costs me and that's hard cash out of my pocket. So it's understanding like where that tipping point is for people and helping them mentally get past that block, if that makes sense.
Well, I think, and I don't know about you, Andy, but what I have seen is the number seems to be, in my opinion, I think the average agent can do around 18 deals a year, potentially, without help. But they cannot break through that number without getting, at a minimum, a part-time assistant, if not full-time, or being a part of a team. If they're a part of a team, they have a lot more resources and support. It changes everything. But an independent agent on their own, not part of a team, in my opinion, can do right around 18 deals a year. And then what happens is they'll try to do a few more, they'll get stressed out, they'll be afraid to hire somebody, and they'll bounce back. And so they keep like banging their head against the ceiling because they won't get help. But as soon as they get help, they'll break through that and go to that next number.
Well, and the tough part with that is when they get so stretched out, that's when it's hard to have consistency. And that's why you start seeing the up and down and the rubber band back and forth, right? And they don't have time to prospect, so their numbers drop. And then when they do, you know what I mean? It's the same problem all over again, right? When they were a brand new agent, they were going through this. So absolutely, I agree with you. It's when you're stretched thin, your consistency breaks down, and then that's when a lot of fear and doubt happens too, right? It's like, oh, well, am I going to be able to do this? You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you run up to where it's, oh my gosh, I just can't keep expanding. You know what I mean? Never ending. You've got to start.
They get some deals in contract, and then they spend all their time working those deals that they're not doing the lead generation. So then those deals close, they're out of business, and they got to start all over again.
Absolutely. Yep, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So, well, let's finish up. We're about to wrap up this episode. So, from each of you, we'll start with you, Marguerite. Is there any? So, the audience for this podcast specifically is people that are leading teams or people that are in a position like Andy, where they're the operations manager and they're overseeing agents, and their responsibility is to coach them and motivate them, kind of day in and day out. So, any tips for them specifically in terms of any resources that have been helpful for you to learn how to coach people better? Or anything like that, any parting words for people that are kind of in the same position that you are of coaching agents?
Well, I'll tell you that I have a couple all-time favorite books, and one of them is called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth by Michael Gerber, one of my favorite books that talks about how to really run your business like a business. And I think that is where many fall short, is that they don't necessarily run it like a business. And you have to do that if you're going to grow to any significant amount of size, if that's what your goal is. But I agree with what Andy said early on, is that you got to really figure out for each person on your team what is most important to them. Like, if you look at it even from an employee perspective, the top 5 reasons why people work for someone has really nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with, benefits, flexibility of time, working for somebody that inspires them and means something. And so I think that that's a key component, is figure out what is most important to the people on your team. Now, it has to be in line with what you're doing. That's a key component. Like, you can't have people that are, you can't be herding cats. I mean, it's got to be people that are in line with the way that you think if you're the one running the team. But you got to, there's that great saying with Zig Ziglar, right? Help enough other people get what they want and you'll get everything you want. So that's really the most valuable thing, I would say, is figure out what's most important to them. Is time more important? Is money more important? Is flexibility more important? Is support more important? Like, each person has their own version of what is most important to them, and you got to know that as a team leader. You got to know what is most important to each one of those people.
Yeah,
I agree, Marguerite.
Yeah, and because I mentioned it at the start of the show, I wanted to give you a chance, Andy, to talk about this specific agent. So the agent that we talked about that wants to spend more time at the pool. So tell me a little bit about their situation and how you keep them motivated.
So the agent on our team, she started out, her goal was always, I want to make 100,000. I want to make 100,000. Right? She's single, no kids. She's super independent, and she's like, I want to make $100,000. That's my goal. That's what success was to her. We got her there, right? She was there right away. I think a year and a half in, and she was like, I got this. She was wonderful at it. Then it was, well, she likes things, and things cost money, but she also likes her time. So her goal was, well, I want to do that again, but I want to do it in less time, right? So now we and none of it's rocket science, you know what I mean? But it's telling her, well, hey, you're going to focus on your internet leads, which turn into your sphere, your past clients. We're going to help you focus on your sphere. Now you're going to be doing less deals, less time, but still making the same amount of money, right? So now it's the type of people we're working with. Okay. Then she did it again. She's made 100,000 every year for the last 4 years.
That's nice.
I swear I see her in the office less and less. Every year, right? But she's a track record of success for a certain type of model, right? That's why, like what you were talking about, Marguerite, you got to find out what's the most important to somebody so that you can help them utilize that value add that your team or your office offers. Well, guess what? They're going to change over time. If they take advantage of what you're trying to tell them, they're going to change, and they're going to need a different value add, right? So now you've got to be the one to show them, hey, that worked. Guess what else you could do? Right, and I just want to give you an update, Matt. She was next is she still wanted to do 100,000, but she wanted to cut even more time because she loves summertime and being by the pool, which I don't blame her. Is she just hired her very first buyer's agent? So now she has her own buyer's agent who's going out and holding the open houses at her listings and driving the buyers around, take a look at those houses, and she's just handling listings now. Right? So this is her next step in the evolution of, hey, I want to continue this certain lifestyle, continue this money, but right now to her, time is more important than an extra paycheck. So we're showing her how to leverage the team to train her buyer's agent, to help her buyer's agent with the paperwork, all of those types of things. And it's working out great so far. Her buyer's agent's crushing it, and she's only been with us for about 3.5 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I love it. And that's not for everybody. That's the thing I love, is that 25 different agents, and you got about 25 different stories, you know what I mean, on what they want to accomplish and how they're getting there. So that's the fun part that never gets boring with my job.
I like it. All right. Very cool. So we talked about 2 resources, the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and then, Andy, you mentioned the One Thing, which is really important. I know you use that a lot in your coaching, and you guys have like a book club there within the Omaha office. So I think it's once every 2 months, and it's all voluntary, but if they want to, they can read a book and participate and stuff like that. I love that idea, especially now with Audible, which opens it up to people that would not consider themselves readers. They can get that same content and participate and get a lot of the value out of it and a lot of the knowledge and the life application without the feeling obligated like they have to read and then feeling bad because they don't like to read and all that stuff. So
love Audible.
We invite even those who don't read the book to show up.
Oh, do you really?
Absolutely. If you read the book, that's great.
Yeah.
We love it. You can contribute to the conversation. Even if you haven't read it, show up. It's part of value of being on the team.
Very cool. That
That's
I did
awesome.
not know. That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, cool, guys. All right, so Marguerite, so how can people take a step towards you? Number one, for referrals, obviously, so the Roseville, Sacramento area, but also tell us a little bit about the coaching. So if someone's listening to this because they're interested in building a team, or they just want to build a lifestyle-oriented business, you've got this amazing online portal and educational training and all that good stuff. So tell people how they can connect with you and take a step towards all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So they can head on over to masterclassrealestateacademy.com and check it out. Add your name to the list. I email out daily different ideas and thoughts and stuff that I'm working on. And then I also do a 2-day workshop. I have one coming up in September. I don't know when this is airing, but September, that's a Design Your Dream Real Estate Business. It's a 2-day workshop that is so fun and so much great stuff. I really dig into what it's taken me to build a business for 23 years. So it's fantastic, and a lot of what I teach is database, how to build lifetime business. I'm not one who does cold calling and door knocking. It's just not my personal style. So I figured out how to get the majority of my business by repeat referral business and sphere of influence. So that's a lot of what I teach in the Masterclass Real Estate Academy. So come on over there and check it out. And I have my own podcast too that you guys were a fabulous guest on.
Forgot to mention that, Real Estate Real World.
Super fun. You guys were one of my most popular guests. Yeah.
Really? Well, that's awesome.
You and Greg. Well, Greg, you can't shut him up. You know.
No, God.
He's awesome.
I'm a certified Greg Wrangler, and I can barely get it.
Certified Greg Wrangler.
We were joking around the other day about, like, because we're speaking at the California Expo coming up in September. I'm like, what can we do to, like, make the booth stand out? I'm like, what would be amazing is if we could have people come over and, like, do a video with Greg, and if they can get through a video, then they get, like, a badge, like a sheriff badge that says Certified Greg Wrangler on it. So I'm still working out. We'll see if we can do that for this show or not, but it'd be fun to do in the future. Anyway.
That is awesome.
All right. And then, so Andy, for you, if people want to connect with you to Mastermind or whatever, is it the best way to look you up on Facebook, email? What about for you?
You know what? It's probably going to be Andy at Elite Real Estate Systems. You can also go to EliteRealEstateSystems.com. That's our website there. One of our favorite ways to mastermind and work with people is our 12-hour workshop. We host 2 of those a month on Mondays, and then we get people coming in. They'll spend the day shadowing Jeff, obviously with the team building. Then you also get to sit in on our team meetings. You get to shadow me in one-on-one meetings individually with each agent. You get to meet with Kevin McGowan, our operations manager, who helps put together all the data so I can have it make sense to the agents. And then after that, and then we spend into the night, probably about 8 o'clock, we go out to dinner and recap, and it's wonderful. It's my favorite probably 2 days of the month, besides closings. Are the favorite 2 days of the month.
Good. Yeah.
When we get
it's nice to walk away with a nice check.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's always wonderful to get to meet so many people in so many different levels, right? And have them in the same room and hear personal experiences, and then be able to share what you guys do and get feedback from them, real-time feedback. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so EliteRealEstateSystem.com. Just check out the workshops page, and right now we're gathering a bunch of audio testimonials from people that have been through the workshop before. So over the next couple weeks, you'll actually see those, and you can hear in people's own words kind of what they took away from it, some of the things that they implemented, and what the results were kind of after they left the workshop. Because we've been following up with people that came through in 2015 and getting some stories from them. So that's going to be awesome. So keep an eye on the website for that. But anyway, we are out of time for this one. Let's wrap this one up. Put a nice little bow on it. Hopefully everybody reaches out to both Marguerite and to Andy and checks out the websites for everybody, and especially go out to iTunes and search Real Estate Real World, where you can hear Marguerite's podcast and get all of her past and future episodes for that. So thank you so much, guys. This was awesome. It's exactly what I had in mind. The content was amazing. You guys are fantastic.
I appreciate it, Matt. It was nice to meet you, Marguerite.
Nice to meet you as well. I'll have to come out to, well, maybe you can come to California.
Yes, that's way better. Yeah.
Hating on Nebraska.
I'm not hating. I've just never been there. I'm sure it's beautiful.
There you go. You just cut down on all the Twitter hate you get now. I love it.
Husker hate.
Right. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, you don't have to twist my arm too hard to come out to California, Marguerite.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.